Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I am Damon, the ally Martin.
And g'day, mate. I'm Patrick Guerra.
And Patrick, tonight we are talking about a movie that is going to require me to not get on my soapbox a whole lot tonight and piss
Yeah.
off every religious person that ever listens to our podcast, because we are talking about a new film that, like, it dropped at film
South
festivals
by.
a,
Yeah,
a
South
while
by
ago, wasn't it?
Southwest.
Yeah, and a lot of buzz coming out. But then I think Obsession kind of took over, and then Backrooms kind of took over, and so now this one's kind of quietly coming out. But I think the buzz will start building again. Yes, tonight, Patrick, we are talking about Leviticus.
Yes, Damon. Leviticus, released in June of 2026, starring the likes of Nicholas Hope as the Deliverance healer, Davida McKenzie as Izzy, Ewan Leslie as Rod, Jeremy Blewett as Hunter, Mia Wasikowska as Arlene, Stacy Clausen as Ryan, and Joe Bird stars as Name, written and directed by Adrian Chiarella. Damon, Leviticus is about two teenage boys who must escape a violent entity that takes the form of the person they desire most, each other. We are talking Leviticus. And yes, Damon, the buzz is real. If you're on that festival circuit, like I have been, luckily this year, I was hanging out with our buddy Chuck, your movie guy. Everybody knows Chuck. And he was like, dude, I'm telling you right now, Leviticus is as good as Obsession, if not better. Like, he was hyping me up for it behind the scenes without ever putting a video out. He was just telling me, he's like, I love this fucking movie. And I was like, well, let's see what it's all about. I don't always line up with everything Chuck likes, but I know Chuck gets very excited and is super passionate about movies. And I finally got to see it. I was actually supposed to see it at the Overlook, and then I ended up having to fly home early because of weather, and I missed it. And Damon, I'm here to tell you, this movie belongs in the discussion with Obsession and with Backrooms as some of the best horror that's come out this year. I know I normally like to kind of tease how I feel about a movie. I feel strongly about this movie. I feel really strongly about this movie. I think it's incredibly, incredibly well made. And you did mention some of the religious people who listen to us might be like, "Oh my God, a movie about gays." The truth is, I know a lot of Christians who actually don't have any zero problems with gays. It's the ones that do are the loud ones. They're the ones that get all the attention. They're the ones that get spread all over social media. And there's plenty of people of faith who have zero problem with the queer community at all, and thankfully. And so I hope those people like to listen to us. And if you're somebody who's getting mad because we're talking about a gay movie, you can fuck right off. We'll be fine. I trust me, me, Damon, and all the rest of the rotten ones over on Patreon, and all of our very loyal fan base. We are not a place of hatred. We are not a place where we are going to hate on people who have a different life than us. And Leviticus, to me, I've seen a lot of queer horror over the years. There's plenty of it. Queer horror and queerness and horror have gone together for quite a long, long time. And this is one of those standout queer horror movies. But to me, it's like, it's not just a queer horror movie. It's a great movie, period.
This is a movie that I've now seen 1.5 times, Patrick, because
That's right.
I
Tell
went
him,
and saw
Damon.
it. I went and saw it last night on opening night on Thursday night, and halfway through the movie, the theater lost power. Like, completely lost. The entire theater lost power, and I was like, okay. And then they finally came back in and said, yeah, the power company says it's gonna be out for 2 hours, so we have to close. So I saw like half the movie. So we didn't get to record last night, so I had to go see it again today. Not complaining, because being honest, I really enjoyed this movie. But it was funny because I was like, this could only happen to me. So I now have seen Leviticus 1.5 times, and I didn't know a ton about this movie. I know a lot. The one thing I did hear over and over and over again is, like, you're going to hear a lot of comparisons to It Follows,
Yeah.
and I get it. I get the comparison. And I was curious how you were going to feel about it, because unlike you don't like It Follows. I love It
No.
Follows. I love that movie. I'm a huge Micah Monroe fan. I love that movie. You do not. It's a weird, because I remember when It Follows came out, it seemed like everybody loved it, and then, like, as time has gone on, I've seen a lot of people don't like it, which is, I mean, to each their own, of course. But
Sure.
for me personally, I always liked It Follows, and the idea of an entity, things like that. I always thought that was very interesting. But for those who are unaware and have not read your Bible recently, and me, even as an atheist, I actually have read the Bible a couple times. Leviticus, of course, is the chapter where the Bible, basically, bans, homosexuality or gay or queer, however you want to say it. Like, I don't know the verse and chapter, but I know that's where it comes from. So obviously that plays a part in what this movie's titled. Because outside of that, they don't really talk about it. Like, they don't say, you betrayed Leviticus verse, what, they don't say
Right.
it in this movie. But that's where it comes from. And this movie pissed me off in so many ways. Not in like I disliked it, but because you're dealing with an ultra religious sect of people who are, I mentioned in the intro, conversion therapy, which is absolute utter bullshit. Let's just be
Bullshit
clear
and
about that.
evil and an evil
I,
fucking process. Yeah.
I was like seven. I can't. I remember how many credits I was not that far away from. I had a double major in college, English literature and psychology. I was not that far away from getting a psychology degree. Conversion therapy is utter bullshit. And so as soon as I didn't know much about this movie, but I knew the premise. We talked about these two boys are, they're gay and their parents are against them being gay. That's the easiest way to say it. And they basically put them into like a conversion therapy, and this conversion therapy is supernatural, of course, as we find out. These things are going after these boys, and that's not a spoiler. Literally, you watch the trailer, you figure that out. And man, I just like that's why I said I have to be careful not to get on my high horse tonight, Patrick, because there were so many moments I wanted to jump up and punch the parents in this movie. I was just like, man, you people are
Mm-hmm.
just pissing me the hell off. But I appreciated we always talk about originality, and I was actually at my record store where I shop today, and one of the owner's daughter who works there always talks about horror. I'm actually wearing my Reanimator shirt today. You can't really see it, but she always talks to me about horror. She does have a horror podcast, and every time I go in there, she's like, "What have you seen lately? Like, what's good?" And she was talking about Backrooms, and we were talking about Obsession, and I told her because she's seen the Speak No Evil remake. I was like, "No, watch the original. Trust me, way better."
Please
Anyways,
watch the
uh,
original. Oh
um,
God.
but like she actually was like, I need more original horror because I'm kind of getting sick of like the reboots and the remakes and like just like rehashes of stuff we've already seen 1,000 times. I like originality, and I told her, I was like, I think I'm one of like four people on earth who didn't like Backrooms because she really liked it, but I was like, Obsession is incredible. You should definitely go see that. Um, but she was like kind of complaining like I like original, I like new horror. And we're being blessed by a lot of good new horror this year. I mean, you mentioned Obsession, Backrooms, and now we're talking about Leviticus. And they're not necessarily reinventing the wheel here with like, supernatural elements to this movie, but the approach. Young gay men being ostracized or being, told they're wrong for having feelings for another man. Now, like in my head, I'm like, how are we not past this shit? But I also know
Mhm.
that's not the reality. Like, it's like like racism. Racism doesn't ever go away. It never goes away. Like, hopefully we've lived in we've advanced to a certain extent, but that never goes away. So like watching this movie really pissed me off, but in a good way. Like it was well written, well acted, well executed. But I was like, God, I want to punch these characters so bad. But yeah, like we're being treated by another truly original horror film here.
We really are. And I think what's interesting, you said something there that really struck me, which is like, it doesn't feel like it's reinventing the wheel. And I feel the same way about Obsession. I feel like I've seen movies like Obsession before. I just think it's done better. I've seen movies like Backrooms before. I just think Backrooms has done it better. And the same exact thing goes for Leviticus. I think it's kind of like It Follows, but I think it just does it better. And even amongst these three, which I think are the big three that are out right now, and I think the difference with this movie is its dramatic character work is something that I think the other two, I won't say lacking, because I think Obsession actually does a really good job with character work. And I actually think Backrooms does a great job with character work. So there's nothing wrong there. But there's something about the character work in Leviticus that puts me in the shoes of those people. I can't relate to Bear or Nikki. I can't relate to Clark. I can really relate to these characters, the characters of Ryan and Name, even though I'm not gay, even though I don't have these experiences. But the director, and I'll say his name again, Adrian Chiarella, really knew how to put me in their shoes, and it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of going. I'm gonna take the audience and I'm gonna walk them through what it's like to be in a place like this. They're in a small town. They're in a small town somewhere. It's there's a big mill that kind of employs probably most of the town, and there's this little revivalist church that they pretty much everybody in town goes to. And you realize like it's just like small town USA. It's just like some small little backcountry town, just like we have here. This is pervasive all over the world. And what you realize is in these small communities, queer people feel even less safe. And here's how they feel less safe. And they break it down in a very simple, very easy way to understand that also creates a lot of dread. That also creates a lot of anxiety. That also creates a situation where I just go, oh man, like I'm scared for these kids. And they're kids. They're portrayed, they are being portrayed as high school kids. And you're just like, I'm terrified for them for multiple reasons, for the people that they live with, the pastor, the other high school kids, their parents, which that part of it is so sad. And, we'll kind of get a little more into that in spoilers. And you're kind of going through these motions. I have a lot of queer friends, and I spend a lot of time talking with them about their life and their experiences because I want to learn. I'm somebody who's lived their whole life straight and never had to answer to any of that stuff. So it's an experience that I constantly want to understand better. So that way I don't get so detached from it that I think I have some sort of insight on it that, you didn't have it so bad or whatever. A lot of people just assume like I have gay friends that have grown up right here in San Diego and have been rejected by their families. And you go, how in a city like San Diego, which is a very progressive, big city, you don't think that's going to happen, and it does. It still happens, and the stories like this need to be told. They just do. They need to be told. They need to be out there, and to do it in this format, to do it in Leviticus, and I think the dread level on this one, Damon, is actually very, very high, but also on the filmmaking side, crafty as fuck. And I want to talk more about that. And maybe we'll have to talk more about that in spoilers because there's a certain aspect to it that I don't want to spoil here necessarily. But when I saw it, I was like, wow, like it also inspired me as a filmmaker because I could see making a movie like this with my friends, and it does not feel low budget. It does not feel half-assed in any way, shape, or form. Everybody's performing at a high level. It looks beautiful. It moves beautifully. It feels like a big budget film. But I was watching the filmmaking going, like, they knew how to make this movie tell this story without the fanciest of tricks. And yet it feels as big and important as a movie like Obsession or a movie like Backrooms.
One other comment I have to pay this movie, and we talked last week or a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Curry Barker and Kane Parsons. Kane Parsons is 20 years old. Curry Barker's 26, and like the youth movement of horror, and it's pretty remarkable. Like we are freaking grandpas by comparison. I did notice because this movie was done in Australia with Australian funding, and they really support the arts way better than we do here in the United States. But it reminded me of when we saw Talk to Me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of similar elements in terms of like using your surroundings, using what you have available to you, not going crazy in terms of like too many effects and like you're just kind of blowing your budget on one thing or another, like kind of sticking to a great story and an original story. And one of the biggest comments we paid Talk to Me, the Philippe brothers did an incredible job with that movie, was taking a new approach to the idea of possession. We loved that movie. It was our shared number one movie that year. And funny enough, when we saw the screening at San Diego Comic-Con, who was sitting right in front of us, Patrick?
Oh, just the Philippe brothers.
No, they were sitting next to us. Who was sitting right in front of us?
Wait, who was sitting in front of us? I forgot.
Joe Bird, the guy who's in this
Oh, that's
movie.
right. Yeah, that's funny because I hung out with Joe Bird at the after party.
yeah, Joe Bird, who of course is in this movie, is in Talk to Me as well. He sat right in front of us, like literally right in front of us. We're like, hey,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. But it reminded me of that in a lot of ways because we were like, wow, what a creative and new way into this. And when we talk about the comparison that follows, I get it. I'm not denying it. Like, it's an entity. That's not, like I said, not reinventing the wheel here. But the approach in terms of basically ostracizing and punishing these two boys for being queer, that's just a whole different way in. And really fascinating and Frustrating, of course, because you're like, why would you do this to these poor kids? Because all they are is just being themselves. But I appreciated that originality. And we talked about that with Kane Parsons and Curry Barker. It's like, why don't we get more of this? And they're doing it now. Boy, I've seen so many articles about who's the next YouTube sensation to make a horror film. It's going to happen. This reminded me so much of Talk to Me, because we said Talk to Me was such an original film and such an original way into a possession movie that had nothing to do with priests or exorcisms or any of that kind of stuff. This movie takes that kind of like supernatural entity and kind of turns it on its head. And we said it in the intro, and you said it with the plot, the tagline, like, it's the person coming after you who you desire most. This is somebody you love, somebody you care about, somebody you lust for, somebody you want, and they now are the scary thing coming after you. It's not just some creepy, ooky, creature or, whatever. It is somebody that you trust and somebody you love, maybe. And I love the way into that, because, like you said, they're not reinventing the wheel. And yes, like the comparisons that follows are fair. It really is fair. But the way they approach it and the way they execute it is so much different that you're like, yeah, I mean, I get the comparison, but that's like saying, Dawn of the Dead is like, what was Army of the Dead, the Zack Snyder movie? Yeah, they both have zombies, but they're incredibly different films, like way different films. Just because you have zombies or vampires, like doesn't mean that. This one has an entity, so yes, you can talk about like a supernatural entity stalking a person, very much like It Follows. It does. That's a fair comparison, but the way that Adrian Chiarella attacked this one, and then you talk about the character development, like. We're really spending most of our time with two characters, Naeem and Ryan, who are the two boys who kind of fall for each other in the movie, and man, like they go through some shit in this movie. Like they really go through some shit in this movie. Like you're gonna feel bad for them, you're gonna be rooting for them, you're gonna be like terrified for them. And last thing I'll say, and I know we probably gonna get spoilers relatively soon here because so much of this like happens in that aspect. We talked about this with Disclosure Day. I don't want to name all the movies we said this about. We're like, why didn't they edit this thing? Like, why didn't they edit out like 30 minutes or 20 minutes? Now, I think Obsession is like an hour and 54 minutes. I think it's right around that mark, like a little less than 2 hours. Didn't feel bloated at all. It was perfect. Like it was, I was perfectly
really
happy
well.
when that was over. For me, Backrooms, I was like, yeah, I could cut off about 90 minutes of this and I'd be happy.
90.
That was me. We're going to talk about the ending and spoilers, like the actual ending of this movie. But I was sitting in the theater today watching this, and I was like, all right. And then the ending happened. I was like, it's over?
Yeah.
Not in like a bad way, but I was like, oh, it's done. Okay, cool. Like, this is a very easy watch. Like, very easy watch, which really pisses me off even more. I didn't get to see it last night because I wasn't that far I was not too terribly far from the ending. But when it got to the end of the day, I was like, oh, and in a way, I kind of appreciate that, because some movies I'm like, can we just get to the freaking ending already? Oh my God, like get there already. Just say what you need to say, get out of here. When this one ended, I was like, you know what? I could have watched another 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And that, by the way, like I said, I'm not saying they do a bad job. It's not unsatisfying. I'm just saying like, oh, and it's kind of like a great concert or a great comedy show. They always say, leave them wanting more. That's what Leviticus does so well, because when it ends, I was like, oh, okay, all right, it's done. In my head, I'm like, I would have gladly watched this for another 15 or 20 minutes. And that, to me, I would much rather have a movie like that than the movie where I'm like, could we get an editor in here? Can we get anyone who knows like how long a movie should actually be?
Like, why was Psycho Killer longer than 5 minutes? Like, you know what I mean? I was like, this is really going on way too long. Damon, before we get to spoilers, I'd like to remind everybody that there's a lot of fun to be had over at patreon.com/rewind of the living dead, where the patrons are basically running the show now. Now they are over there suggesting classic horror movies for our down weeks where we don't have a brand new horror movie to talk about. You can get in on that action, just $5 a month, patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. It gets you our lost episodes, which there's a few of those already there. It gets you our Film Core podcast, which patrons get to vote on. That is a non-horror podcast. They get that once a month exclusive to the patrons. And we get TV show breakdowns. We've done Alien Earth. We've done It Chapter 2, and we will obviously revisit those when those second seasons come around. And I know Camp Crystal Lake is fast on our heels, Damon, like Jason with a machete, and we will definitely be doing that for the patrons. And we might maybe give a little something to everybody out here, but truth be told, it's very fun over there at patreon.com/ rewind of the living dead. Help you boys out.
And right before we get to spoilers, I just want to say this: like, if you haven't figured it out yet, like Patrick and I both really enjoyed this movie. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Well acted, well executed, good story. Like I said, brisk pace. And
Hmm.
you're wanting for nothing. You get all the answers you could get, and then you get out of there. And I just thought it was really really well done. And credit to Adrian Chiarella for creating something. Like I said, not reinventing the wheel, didn't give you something you've never seen any version of this before, but he took a totally different approach with the idea of, like, again, living in the ultra religious community and these two boys are gay. I just thought, wow, what a great way in. Like, what a great way to explore this kind of a story. That, like we said, we talk about conversion therapy is just torture, it's evil, it doesn't work, and it's bullshit. But to take that idea and turn it supernatural and then terrorize these boys throughout this movie, I was just like, you know what? I have seen movies similar to this, but I've never seen anything like this. And you talk about Obsession, same kind of thing. I've seen movies similar to Obsession, but I've never seen anything quite like Obsession. That to me is the mark of a brilliant filmmaker, much like the Philippou brothers did with Talk to Me. And I just want to give credit where credit's due, because this is another film where a new original voice is making a new original horror film that has been done slightly like this before, but not as well as this one.
Absolutely, Damon.
So let's get into spoilers. And so if you haven't seen Leviticus, it is in theaters right now. Highly recommend checking it out. Hopefully the power doesn't go out in your theater. If you want to see it twice, though, it is worth it. So if you haven't seen it, be aware we're not getting into full spoilers. So, Patrick, would you like to break down the plot for this one, just so we can kind of get into like the nuts and bolts of the story?
Yeah, and again, this movie is very lean and it doesn't waste a lot of time. You start right away with Name and Ryan hanging out at the old factory, at this busted down old factory, and you just get the sense that they're two high school kids that are just hanging out and fucking around, breaking glass and throwing shit. This is the kind of shit I used to do. And there's a little bit of I would say combative nature to their friendship, and it erupts in this mill, and then you realize it's erupting because there's actually deep-seated feelings for each other, and they're exploring it probably for the first time in their lives. Probably for the first time in their lives, they're going, "Yeah, I know I'm gay. I think this guy's gay too." And sure enough, they do like each other, and it's this kind of whirlwind romance that they do have to keep undercover because they both go to the same little church in the same little town. Everybody knows everybody. There's a high risk to what's going on there, and where things really get complicated, where the catalyst of this movie really strikes us, is that, and I should say too that Name and his mother, they have actually moved here from somewhere else. It sounds like mom had been going through a bad relationship or something. We never quite get into that, but she was going through something and felt she needed to be around people, I think, more like her is what it felt like. And Name is kind of head over heels for Ryan. And then one day because he always kind of walks over to Ryan's house to hang out with him and explore this new relationship. And one day he walks over and Ryan is there with Hunter. Hunter is the pastor's son. And much like their initial reaction, Hunter and Ryan are having kind of an aggressive kind of confrontation, and then that erupts into passion as well. And you're heartbroken for Name, and he's heartbroken. He's like, "Oh my God, I was like in love with this guy. I'm in this small town where I don't love anything. It's fucking boring, and I fall in love with this guy, and immediately he's with somebody else, like right away." And Name being a young, impulsive teenager, he does something that I'm sure he regrets almost immediately, which is he runs and tells the church. He's like, I saw Ryan and Hunter doing something. And so the pastor, who is Hunter's father, calls in that what they call a deliverance preacher.
Deliverance healer.
Healer, okay. Healer, right? And this is the part that is super super sad to me. this whole congregation surrounds these kids and they do this ritual and Hunter and Ryan are like, okay, whatever, dude, this shit doesn't work. And the guy opens up a like a Zippo lighter, and when he puts this flame to them, all of a sudden they start seizing, and something goes on with them that is supernatural. And that was something I wasn't expecting. I thought maybe they were gonna like fake that they were feeling it, and then later on the effects of it would happen. It was like, no, it was really happening right then and there to them. And after that, things get weird. And what you realize is that each of them is seeing something that we can't see. And so Hunter is actually seeing some version of Ryan. Ryan is seeing some version of Name because Ryan is really in love with Name, but he happens to have messed with Hunter. And so, like, it's this entity takes the shape of someone that you desire, you really love, like probably
Person
just the
the
go ahead.
person you desire most. Like the
The
person that's
person,
why
yeah,
for Hunter it's Ryan, for Ryan it's Name. He actually desires Name more than he desires Hunter. So yeah.
right. So they're seeing a version of them, but that version of them is insidious and nasty and scary. And it's kind of it's fucking around with Ryan, and Ryan's like to Name, he's like, get the fuck away from me, because he doesn't realize that he's seeing an entity, not Name. So he's like, Name, get the fuck away from me. I don't know why you're doing this to me, but get away. Like I don't want to be around you. And then when he goes to confront Hunter, Hunter is way deeper into it and gets killed by the thing. He sees him he gets like snatched in the night, and in the morning they find Hunter's head in a field. And you realize, oh, this entity is real nasty and real bad. This is the part of the movie that really broke my heart, Damon, because I realized it was a big commentary on conversion therapy. And I don't want to get into the long of it, but the short of it is that certain religious sects believe that if you take a kid to conversion therapy, you can pray the gay away, essentially. And what it has shown is that it actually just increases their likelihood of self-inflicted violence, of suicide. It's incredibly abusive to a young person to do this to them. It's a lot of psychological torture. It's essentially like they're trying to beat the gay out of them. Usually, that's usually how it goes. They never promote it that way. They go, no, we pray. No, they torture them. They torture these kids into just finally going, fine, I'm not gay. And when deep down they probably are, and they just want the torture to stop. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, my God, like that's a real reality for a lot of people in a lot of small towns all across the world. That when somebody finds out they're gay, someone in their community goes, I know what we do. We'll do this thing, we'll do this conversion therapy, and we will get the gay out of these kids. And what you're doing and what Leviticus shows is that you are starting a clock that is very difficult to turn off. And when that time runs out, that kid's probably going to die. And so, from the perspective of Name, when he sees Hunter taken away, now he understands, oh shit, this thing is coming after Ryan. It's gonna come for Ryan. So I have to do something about it. And that springs him into action because he doesn't want to see Ryan die. That shit hits me real hard, Damon. It breaks my heart that that's a reality. And I think that the way it's portrayed in this movie as this horrific thing that is coming for young queer kids, it's not just important, but it's like, it's sad. It's just genuinely sad that or that it's like this out there. And it makes you go, how do we end this? How do we stop this cycle? And that's kind of what the rest of the movie tries to get into.
Yeah, and I know you didn't mean it this way, but just say like conversion. They do conversion therapy on adults too. It's all bullshit. Like it's all
Yes,
horrible stuff.
correct. Yeah. But of course they love to start with kids because kids are so
Yeah,
much more vulnerable.
yeah.
And kids
So
kids kids pray are victim to it at a very high rate.
and a lot of kids don't have a choice in the matter because their parents are just
Exactly.
sending them to this shit. Anyways, so yeah, so Name goes to the police and tries to be like, Hunter got killed by this thing. I don't know what it is, but blah blah blah. And the police, of course, are like, yeah, you're crazy. They tell his mom, and his mom takes him to that same deliverance healer and says, I know that you're also falling down the same path of gay. And you need to be converted. You need to go to the same thing. And of
She
course,
ambushes him. She doesn't.
yeah.
She just like takes him there. He has no idea.
And they pull him out of the car, and he goes through it. And then, sure enough, the same thing starts happening to him. He starts seeing Ryan, and it's not his Ryan. And So they end up talking to Hunter's sister. And Hunter's sister tells them about something similar that happened with a girl that used to live there. And that's the very beginning of the movie. We see this girl at a pool and she goes to the shower and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And we don't see anything. And then she's like, you can tell they're having sex. And then boom, she's all bloodied up and beat up. And the one girl dies. And Hunter's sister tells them that the girl who survived ended up going to a place called Marysville, which is like an hour away from where they live, and she stays in the hospital. She just stays there permanently. She wants to be around people because anytime she's alone, this entity, this thing follows her and finds her. And so Name and Ryan get on a bus and they go to Marysville and they find her, and she's obviously basically one step away from cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and because she's been tortured by this thing for a year and a half, however long it's been. And she basically tells them, like, it takes the form of the person you desire most, but don't go near them. Stay away from them. Like, that's what it wants. It wants you to go for the person you love, and then it kills you, or it tries to kill you, or it tortures you, and then tries to kill you. And so they learn as much as they can before this girl wigs out, and then they get back on the bus, and as Name is getting back on the bus, the entity of Ryan shows up, and he's, like, staring at him. It's freaky. It's a freaky moment in that movie. They get on the bus, they go back home. Long story short, they basically say we have to stay away from each other, but they love each other, so they don't want to stay away from each other. But this shit keeps happening. Like, they go to school one day, Ryan gets attacked, he gets his ear nearly bitten off, ripped off his head, and then the big second, like the third act, is really Name running from the Ryan clone or the Ryan entity because it comes to his door. He thinks it's the real Ryan. They're having a great connection, and boom, it's not the real Ryan. It's the entity, and so he spends 15 minutes running from this thing, trying to get away from it, and trying to survive, and that really is the crux of the movie, is him just trying to they don't want to stay away from each other, but they have to kind of stay away from each other because they can't trust that when the other one shows up, it's not the entity. And we'll talk about the ending in a second, but that's basically it. Is like, they're like, imagine, and I know this is obviously a specific story in with LGBTQA plus community, but in your, like, imagine in your situation, you've been with your wife for how many years at this point?
Oh, decades.
Imagine being told, like, you can't be around her anymore because there's an entity out there that's going to stalk and kill you. Now, this is obviously a new relationship for Name and Ryan, but still, like, imagine that. Like, imagine being, like, the one person you want to be with, you desire the most, you love the most, you need in your life, and you can't be around them. That's a different level of torture. And by the way, Name's mom, and to her credit, by the way, played by the great, what's her name?
Mia Wasikowska.
Yeah, very, very well-known actress. She was in Crimson, what was that
Peak?
movie? The one with Crimson Peak, thank you, Guillermo del Toro. Yeah. And she left acting and moved home to Australia and basically just does, like, little independent films now. So, like, she was a pretty well-known actor for a long time, and then she just kind of walked away from the business, moved home to Australia, and kind of fucked off. But she's awful. She's just like, this. Yeah. You need this, Ryan, or you need this, Name. Like, this is what you need. I need this. You need this. And he's like, Mom, fuck off. We don't really meet a lot of Ryan's parents. We see Ryan's parents. We don't really interact with them very much. We interact much more with Hunter's parents. But, yeah, so Name's just like, all right, fuck all this. So the third act is really him running away from the Ryan entity. And then, if you want to talk about the ending, it's not like I said, it's kind of dramatic. So if we talk about the actual ending in the movie, it is Name running from the entity that looks like Ryan for a good 15, 20 minutes. And then finally he crosses paths with the real Ryan again. And they're still very, like, hesitant to trust that this is the real person. But when they finally do, they're just like, we need to stay together, not separate. We're going to be each other's, like, person, like, meaning kind of like what that girl is doing by going to the hospital, so she's always surrounded by people. If we're always around each other, we'll know if the entity shows up because we're going to be together. And so they jump back on the bus, and they're heading out to Marysville or wherever else they can get the fuck away from this giant, ultra-religious little town. And they're holding hands, they're on the bus, and then, boom, credits. And I was just like, whoa, it's over?
Well, you skipped over a big part, though. So there's a big complication. So what happens is in the middle of all that, Hunter's sister is like, I think I can help you guys fix this thing, and so they trust her because she's the one that told them about the other girl. Well, what she was really doing was trapping them. So she gets them in a car together. She goes, "Let's go. We're going to meet this person. I think we can get it fixed." And it turns out it's just a bunch of local kids who want to beat them up because they're gay. And in that moment, Name reveals that he's the one that told the preacher, the pastor about Hunter and Ryan. That complicates their situation because Ryan's like, "Oh shit, you did this. You did this to me. You did this to me, and you did this to Hunter." Like he doesn't care about Hunter as much as he cares about himself. But now this thing is after them because of what Ryan did, and that creates the split. And then at that point, Ryan can't, or excuse me, Name can't trust if he's seeing Ryan because Ryan was like, "You can fuck off." He drops him off. Like Ryan saves them from being killed. They could have been killed by these kids. Ryan saves them and is just like, "Don't ever fucking talk to me again because you're the reason we're in this situation." And then the other Ryan shows up, but again, he doesn't know and he can't tell if like is it Ryan forgiving me or is it the evil Ryan? I don't know. And then he has to run from that Ryan and then he ends up in the factory with evil Ryan and you're not sure. You're like, is it Ryan or is it the Ryan that's mad at him? You don't know. And then he picks up like this big heavy pipe that they could not pick up in the beginning of the movie to try and smash his head and get away from him. And Ryan had learned in that process that the fire will hurt this entity, and so
Name figured out.
excuse me, name figures out that the fire is going to hurt this entity, and he sets the factory ablaze and locks the entity in there, and the entity's like pleading with him and all this stuff, and he lets him burn in there, and then he hits the road, and on the road he sees the real Ryan waiting for a bus, and they get on that bus together and they go. But as they look out the window, he sees Ryan, the other Ryan, the anti Ryan out there, and it's a great parallel to understanding that queer couples in certain places can't feel safe ever until they're away from those places. And I think that to me, it felt like that. It's like they got together, they got on this bus. They're probably going to head to a big city where there's always people around, and they are going to try to live their lives as best they can, but they're never going to ever feel safe because of the traumas that they've dealt with back home.
Yeah,
And that,
and
go
it's
ahead.
not just getting away. It's not just getting away from the town. It's getting away from the parents because clearly the parents are part
Absolutely.
of this. And yeah, that like while this is definitely a horror movie, it absolutely is a horror movie. It's also a great lesson in that. Like imagine that. Like I mean, I know. Like like I said, I didn't grow up gay, but I know that like I was kind of like I was part of the black sheep of the family because my mom was the black sheep of the family. Like she was not, my mom was like the one who did drugs and got in trouble all the time, and so like immediately, so like I was always kind of seen as the black sheep. I got good grades in school, went to college, all those kind of things, but still they kind of looked at me as like the black sheep of the family, and I know like so I think I've told this story on the show before. I'm estranged from my family. Like I don't really have contact with my family. To be part of that is at one point my sister got ultra religious, like ultra religious. And I'm an atheist. I'm openly an atheist. And she basically was like, you need to find Jesus or we can't talk. You need Jesus. I'm like, no, the fuck I don't. Fuck off. I don't need you in my life anymore. And I haven't talked to my sister in 20 years, whatever it's been. So like, I'm not certainly not in the same situation as these kids, but I understand the concept of like if you're not going to support and love me for who I am, regardless of what I believe, what you believe, whatever, I really need you in my life. Does that suck? Yeah, it sucks. It sucks when you lose your family, you lose your home, you can't even go to your hometown and see people you like because they judge you because you don't believe what they believe. But that's really what Name and Ryan are dealing with. Like, and they're finally when they get on this bus and they're holding hands and they're leaving together. They're just like, we can't be in this town. We can't be near our parents. We can't be near anyone here. Like they literally, those kids try to create a hate crime by beating them. They were going to beat them to death in an alley because they're gay for no other reason, because they're gay. And by the way, that absolutely still happens in this world. It's sad and depressing, but it absolutely still happens. But they get on this bus and they're just like, wherever we go, we're going to go together now because like, yes, what Name did was horrible. And he obviously regrets that, but ultimately they are in love with each other, and they're like, the only way we can survive is if we stay together. And so they're heading off to parts unknown to try to start a new life or try to survive this entity, but also they're surviving this town because the town hates them. Their parents clearly hate them, and they're like, I don't need to be around this shit, like, regardless. So it is like, obviously it's a great supernatural entity horror movie, but it's also a life lesson. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, imagine, like I said, like, if you become a parent one day, remember, don't judge your children for who they become. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if your kid becomes gay, your kid becomes trans, whatever it is, love them for who they are, or you may lose them forever. And clearly, some parents don't care if that happens. But Name and Ryan are just like, we can't be around these people. Anyone, this town, these people, our families, and that is just as scary as this entity that's stalking them.
It's sad. It's heartbreaking. This is a very dramatic movie, by the way. It has a lot of like drama elements to it, and to me, that parallel, that even that last look when he looks out the window and sees the entity that looks like Ryan, you get a sense that that's the experience for a lot of gay people, where they're just like, I know I'm leaving this all behind. I know I'm sadly I can't trust the people that I grew up with. I can't trust the people who raised me. I left all this behind, but it will always be following me. It will always be after me. That's why I think this is so much more impactful than It Follows. It Follows is like, oh, it'll always be following me because I be fucking. It's like that's not that's it's so much deeper than that in Leviticus. It's like the threat of death, the threat of violence against queer people does not go away, even in the most progressive towns. You're still like, I don't know if I'm necessarily safe. I will always have something over my shoulder. That is heavy. That's a heavy pill to swallow, but it's a reality that I think Adrian Chiarello was able to really convey here, which is that why should I ever feel safe? There are so many moments in this movie where you don't feel safe for Name and Ryan just loving each other in a completely pure way. You're like, it's not safe. What if it's the entity? What if it's coming for you right now? I was hearing Adrian in those moments. Adrian is queer himself, saying that, saying like it's not. This is what it's like living this life, where like even in the best moments, you don't feel safe. So now you get to know a little bit about what it's like to walk in my shoes.
And I want, and not, by the way, I'm certainly in no way, shape, or form tearing this movie down. And I know you don't like It Follows, but for me personally, like, I don't like, I can enjoy It Follows if it doesn't have a great message. Like, I think at that point,
Sure, yeah.
it was a really original story at that point. Like, they did the thing with like this weird entity that follows you around. The only way to pass it on is to have sex with somebody, and then the entity moves to you, to them, and moves on. And then, you know, the longer they survive, the longer you survive. Um, I didn't need a bigger message. I thought it was a really, for me personally, that was a really creative, inventive horror film. But yes, you're right. This movie has a much more powerful message. And listen, even if you're absolutely an ally and supporter of the gay community, you may still be like, I don't love movies that have this like really powerful message. I get it. Like, there's some people who just like, I want to go to a movie and not think about the world for an hour and a half. I get it. I do understand that concept, but this movie just goes so far beyond what is a horror movie, because it is a really important life lesson, you know, and this is coming from someone, like I said, like this movie angered me in so many ways. Like, the parents doing what they're doing, and the kids, you know, basically doing a hate crime on these other kids simply because they're gay. Like, it infuriated me, and it, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because it absolutely still happens. It 100% happens every day. But when it smacks you in the face like that in a movie like this, it's just like it's a sad and depressing, but it also kind of alerts you to the world you live in. Because I grew up
Hmm.
in a small town, I understand that concept. Like, I know I've told the story, you know, before. I didn't meet a black man until I was like 16, because it was a little small, you know, town of white people, and there's a world where my dad was not. I'm not going to get too deep into it. My dad was not, you know, culturally accepting. Let's just put it that way. There's a world where I followed down that path because my dad was that way. I didn't, thankfully, and I kind of became my own person. But like this is a real snapshot of what happens in a lot of these small towns, these over. And by the way, you're right. You could live in New York City; it could still happen to you. Where that's a very progressive town.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in Columbus, Ohio. We're about actually, funny enough, we're having our Pride Parade tomorrow. One of the biggest Pride parades in the United States. I think the second or third biggest in the entire United States. Doesn't mean it doesn't still happen here. Like we have a very progressive town, but doesn't mean it still doesn't happen here. But this is just a real snapshot of like, remember, this doesn't go away. This never ends. And this is
Yeah.
just like, and especially, I love the idea that Adrian used teenagers because, their parents still control them in so many ways. Like they decide where you go, when you come home, curfews, things like that. And so when Name's mom basically, pulls the wool over his eyes and drops him off at the preacher's house and he sees the deliverance healer and he's like, I know what's going to happen here. He's going to do to me what he just did to Ryan and Hunter. His mom doesn't give a fuck. She's just like, I don't care. I need you to not be this way. At one point, I'm pretty sure there's a line where she's like, I just need you to not be this way.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine to be like, I dislike who you are so much. I just need you to change.
Mm-hmm.
That is the fundamental flaw of people who can't support, the queer community, who are racist. Like, I don't want to be around you because you're black. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
And this movie does a really good job of it. And I think what Adrian did by using the teenagers is you got to remember, they don't have the same autonomy as you and I. Like we're in our 40s. We can, we do what we want. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
I can cut people out of my life if I feel like it. I have that autonomy.
What I do for a living. I cover mixed martial arts. There was a big mixed martial arts event at the White House last weekend, and I won't say which one, but a very, 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 very far right organization reached out to me to interview me to do the show, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not appearing on your fucking show because I know you're a fucking piece of shit and you hate people and I'm not doing that. It's like, nope, pass.
Yeah.
That's my choice. But think about that in the other way. If he's like, you don't have a choice, you're doing that show.
Yeah.
That's what these teens are going through. You don't have a choice. You know what I mean? You don't have a choice here. You're gonna and his mom literally saying to him, I need you to change. He did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. Now,
nothing.
if he's boning his boyfriend, they burn the house down. I understand you might be a little mad about that, but that didn't happen. He's just in love with another guy.
Yeah.
And she's like, I need you to change. I can't handle this name. And my reaction was like, fuck you, lady. Like, and so
infuriating. Yeah.
That's why this movie works so well. And I think that really struck a chord because of the age of the characters. You know what I mean? Like I said, when you're older, you do have that autonomy. You can make your own choice. Like I said, I made the choice to not talk to my family anymore. And they're like, you don't have religion. We don't want to be around you. I'm like, guess what? Fuck off. I don't want to be around you either. But when you're 16, 17, like these kids are, you don't have that autonomy. You don't have that choice. You live at home. One of the old parents line, I brought you into this world, I could take you out of it. That's really what they're telling you. And when his mom said that to him, I was just like, I was like, like you're like seething with anger. And it's through the storytelling that Adrian Chiarella executes that makes this work so well.
It's incredible storytelling execution. I think it's a special movie. It really you know how I am about the 1970s movies, Damon. I love them. This one felt like a lot of those movies. It felt like Deer Hunter. It felt like sorry, I'm drawing a blank on some of these things, but the point is that it's really peeling away all the flash and getting to the things that hurt people. And why people hurt and why people end up in the situations they end up in. And I think Adrian Chiarella's got my money from here on out because I was like, if you're going to tell stories this way, sign me up. Like this feels real and powerful and grounded and even fantastical, which is fine. It's the idea of this entity is using the entity and also using the entity in a very efficient way. There's not a monster that is big and revealed. It's just the person you love the most, and for some reason that is so much more impactful. Think about obsession. Nikki doesn't turn into a ghoul or anything. It's just Nikki, but it's Nikki who has been taken over by something else, has no control over her body, and so the Nikki that you see on screen is terrifying and breaks your heart for all those same reasons. And you don't need special effects or big props or a big monster reveal to get to the point of that. And that's exactly what Leviticus is doing.
And one last thing before we get to categories, I know you'll agree with me here. We talked about this with Obsession, with the whole One Wish Willow and like making a wish and it coming true. And we said, I don't really need to know the mechanism behind that. It works
Yeah.
because the rest of the movie kind of pays off like that. This is very much the same way. Like this deliverance healer does this ceremony, and then boom, like you're now being haunted by this entity. I don't need to know where it came from. I don't need to know the mechanism behind it. I understand this is just a supernatural version of a conversion therapy where they're like, we're going to beat it out of you, except we're going to send a fucking supernatural entity to basically rip it out of you. That's literally all they're doing. I don't need to know the mechanism behind it. I don't need to know the science behind it. It works, and it works well because the entire story is executed so well. So, like, I thought that was one thing that Leviticus does and shares a lot of DNA with Obsession, where it's like, I don't need to know why it worked. I don't need to know
Yes.
how, where it came from. I don't need you to, like, you know, do the research and find some ancient Bible verse where they talk about, like, some creature or something. I don't
Yeah.
need to know any of that. It works because it's executed so well.
I swear, Damon, they prove me right every time. The less you know, the more terrifying it ends up being.
Yeah. All right, Patrick, let's get into some categories. Let's kick things off as we do each and every week here. And let's talk about best performance. This is a very small movie. There's only so many roles in this movie, but what is your best performance for Leviticus?
Lots of great performances in this movie. I loved everybody's turn in this movie, but Stacy Klaus, who played Ryan, really stood out to me. He really reminded me of like a young Heath Ledger. There was something about his presence, and he didn't overplay anything. And you know he's the supporting role in the movie. It's Name's movie. It's Joe Bird's movie. But I thought he did a great way. He was very complimentary to Joe's character, and I was just like, damn, wherever this kid goes next, I'm very interested in what he does.
He was great, and I think this is one of his first like really big roles. Like he had done some TV and stuff, but I don't think he'd really done much else besides this. So yeah, good, very good on him. He was very, very good. But Patrick, I got to go with Joe Bird, our boy Joe Bird. I mean, he was great and talked to me. He played very much a supporting role, and now he kind of graduated now where he's leading. I think he's 19 if I remember it correctly. Right now he's 19 years old, very young guy, bright, bright future. I mean, he was great and talked to me. He was a standout and talked to me. I can't remember. I think one of us gave him best performance for talking to me. I can't remember which one of us did.
Yeah,
Maybe you
I
did.
think he,
Um,
yeah, something or MVP or whatever. He did great.
yeah. And then coming back and leading this movie and doing a really good job at this, like I was just like, wow, this kid's got a bright future. He's acting a lot in Australia. American folks, start paying attention. You want to cast Joe Bird in your film because he's really freaking good.
Cool kid. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to hang out with him at the Talk to Me after party and talk horror with him. Sweet kid and clearly making good choices in terms of scripts. He did a great job here.
And when we met him and talked to me at the screening, his parents were with him, which I thought was great. I
Yeah,
mean, they were really they
yeah,
were
that's
really nice
awesome.
too. Like we met him and his parents. It was really cool.
I always love that. I love seeing families who are like taking care of their kids in that respect. Like, oh, let's go see the crazy horror movie you you just did where you get ripped to shreds. And boy, he really takes a beating and talk to me.
Yeah, he does. He's great though. Patrick, next category. Let's talk about MVP. Again, small movie. Only so many people can get this award. But who gets the MVP for you when it comes to Leviticus?
I honestly could have given it to anybody in any role, you know, above the line or below. And I really had to go with the cinematographer Tyson Perkins. I love how this movie looks. Where Obsession to me, has a very rich kind of like it feels like a movie. It feels kind of shot like a movie and lit like a movie. Backroom's another one where it feels like a big screen thing. There was something so naturalistic about Leviticus that just drew me in. The choices of how the lens was used, when the lens was used, and why. Very intimate moments are used. The lighting was just so. I was just so in love with all the choices in the cinematography, and Tyson's at the top of that list because he's out there making it look right, and it just again it harkened back to like old school cinema, which I love. I so love the poetic realism of the 1970s, and it reminded me a lot of that.
I think the cinematography here also like it's not found footage. Let me be clear when I say that because you would lose your mind if it was. But a lot of this, and I mean this as a compliment. I'm saying this as a compliment. A lot of this feels like they shot on like iPhones, where they're just like, we're going to follow these characters. We're not getting on the big tracks, and we're not doing these wide shots.
Right.
Like they're like, we're going to track with the characters. So like when someone's running, you're running with the character. When someone's like in a house, you're kind of seeing a little bit of their point of view. And it kind of felt like by the way, I've seen Shelley, I've seen Steven Soderbergh's movies where he shot with just iPhones, like really well shot.
28 years later was, yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm just saying like that's kind of what it felt like to me. And I mean that, like I said, I mean it as a compliment. Like it looked so real and not glossy. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a glossy filmmaker. I love glossy films.
Sure.
I'm just saying like this felt like raw in the dirt filmmaking.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. I love stuff that feels real gritty and real.
And this is a perfect movie for it. And to that point, listen, mine, I mean, come on, you already know my answer. It's Adrian Chiarella. I mean, I've said this 1,000 times on the show before. I don't want to over repeat myself here, but it is really hard to be a writer and director. I've said a million times, I have dreams of being a screenwriter, but I just don't fancy myself a director. Now, could I help? Could I pitch in? Sure. But I don't fancy myself as a director. I consider myself a writer. But when you're a writer and director and you can do it and pull it off, like when you're like, when the movie's over, you're not like, he probably should have maybe written this, maybe not directed it. And I've had those experiences. I know you have too. Or the other way where you're like, maybe you should have directed this and not written it. This one's another one, much like Kane Parsons and much like Curry Barker. You're like, wow, like really impressive. You wrote and directed this. And I thought he just did an incredible job.
Yeah, and just for record's sake, Kane Parson did co-write that with Will Sudick or whatever.
And by the way, Curry Barker did too, because Ian, was it Tomlinson, the other guy who's in the movie who plays his friend?
Oh yeah, yeah, he helped. He helped out with it, and Jeff Barker, who we had on the show, helped out with the script as well.
Yeah, but the original idea and everything, of course, was.
Oh yeah.
Patrick, the next category is best scare. And let me do a little spoiler here for you, Patrick, because you know the way I always support our creator friends when they have a review up and I haven't seen the movie yet, I like it, scroll past, go back and watch it later. I weirdly saw half of Leviticus last night, so I was like, I already know what the movie. I was already in the deep thick of the movie, so I ran across our boy Justin Slasher Talk today, and I started watching his review, and I didn't go too far into it. He's like, Leviticus, and he said this movie might have the best jump scare of the year. And I was like, okay, well, I was about halfway through the movie, or like maybe like 60% of the movie when it got cut off, and I don't remember a great jump scare. Then I rewatched it tonight, the whole movie, and I was like, oh, yep, Justin got that right. So your scare is also my scare. First time in a while where I was like, I had chills when it happened. Oh fuck! So it is a classic jump scare, but goddamn, does it work?
Fantastically timed and edited. That's Adrian's work right there with his editor. Excuse me, going. We need the exact right timing here, and it's a moment I'm calling Ryan in my bed. So when they realize they need to be they need to be separated because spending time with the person you care about the most can make the entity grow even stronger. So they kind of split away, but Ryan, Name doesn't want to be alone, so he's sleeping in the bed with his mom, and he's having bad dreams. And so he's in a dream state, and that dream state gets scary. And then he wakes up and he's there with his mom, and he's like freaked out. And there's just this great reset where it was like, oh, it was all a dream. Okay, like that was scary, but it was all a dream. And just as he goes to turn, Ryan appears out of nowhere, straight out of Friday the 13th. The original Friday the 13th, when Jason like jumps out of the water and grabs the woman from the boat, Ryan just jumps up and grabs him, and it's so loud and it just fucking hits you like a Mack truck, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like it got everybody in the theater
covered in blood. And just, because he actually wakes up twice. He wakes up once, and you're like, he's awake, and he kind of goes back in that dream state again. The dream state is just like revisiting parts of the past, but like now being haunted by this entity. And then the second time he wakes up, he's like, kind of in a cold sweat. And he's like, oh, okay. And it's dead quiet. And then fucking boom. It's just like, rah! You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. It got me good. And I didn't know what it was coming because, like I said, Justin said there was a great jump scare. I was like, maybe I missed it. Like, did I just not see it or something? And, or do I have a different definition of jump scare? And boy, when that one got me, I was like, oh, now I know what he was talking about.
Phenomenal. So well timed.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, next category, best gore. Now, this isn't a super gory film. I mean, you
No.
do get to see someone's head get cut off. You don't get to see the head get cut off. You see the severed head. Um, but what is your best gore in Leviticus?
I really love this one, Damon. It's just one of those like nails on the chalkboard moments where Name is at home and the entity Ryan is outside, or he's not quite sure, he doesn't know. But at one point, they're right at the screen door with each other, and this screen door is like made of real, like actual whatever it is, steel or I don't know what it is, but it's a thick screen. It's not that fabricy, bendy kind of screen, and the entity just crashes through with his arm to reach out to grab Name, and in the process is peeling and ripping at his own skin. And so he's like reaching in there, reaching in to try and grab Name through this wired up screen door. And then he also pulls his arm out to kind of break through even more. And as he pulls it out, more skin comes peeling off of the arm. It's just one of those great, like, really like goosebumps moment where you're like, oh, that's disgusting.
That is a good one. And my best gore isn't nearly as gory, but it's just the body part where it happens, and it's just great. And there's like so after Ryan and Name figure out that they're being stalked by this entity and they need to stay away from each other, even at school. Like Name is at school and he's avoiding Ryan, pass him in the hall, just trying not to acknowledge him in any way, shape, or form. But one day at school, Ryan comes tearing out of the bathroom, screaming bloody murder, and his ear has been ripped off, blood just pouring down his face. Now, if you, I've never experienced like serious ear injuries, but having wrestled, what
Hmm.
cauliflower is when you get that. I don't have cauliflower, but I've experienced that getting your ears all fucked up. That his ears all basically dangling off. He basically gets bitten
Yes.
off. Like the name entity bites off Ryan's ear and it's like dangling in a piece off his ear, blood pouring down his ear, and he's screaming bloody murder. That one just got me because I'm like, I know how much a fucking ear injury hurts. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh God. Then you see it later, they sewed it back on where he's got like a big stitch job on his ear. But that was just nasty because you know that name bit it off, and it's just the pain of that and seeing the blood just pour down his face. That one got me.
Yeah, really good like practical effects. It just felt real in that moment. I've seen bad ear injuries and they do your head bleeds like a motherfucker. People don't realize that. Like if you get even a minor cut, like it'll bleed profusely. So when you cut the ear and all that blood is kind of like pouring in a very high rate and it looks so good and whoever did the practical effects did a great job.
Yeah, it was clearly not Steven Spielberg's guy from fucking Disclosure Day. I know that.
Big
uh,
CG ear.
yeah. Patrick, next category, remake, sequel, or leave it alone. I feel like I know we're probably going to have the same answer here, but I know you like to surprise me from time to time. So this is the category where we take whatever movie we're reviewing and we say, should they remake it, should they sequelize it, or should they just leave it alone? So when it comes to Leviticus, Patrick, are you remaking it, are you sequelizing it, or are you just leaving it alone?
I think it sets itself up for a sequel pretty easy. But and I'm sure there are people who'd be like, "Oh, let's go after the fucking the preacher or the the deliverance healer, or let's go kick his ass." And believe me, I want to, and that makes sense. But I really would I want to say leave it alone because I feel like it's a snapshot of an experience of the queer experience, and sequelizing it and making it like a franchise or something like that. I don't know, kind of like it takes away from that a little bit. Like this should stand as a statement. Now, if it gets so successful that it calls for a sequel, I'm not going to deny Adrian his money. Like he made a movie worthy of success, and so I do hope a lot of people go see this movie. I don't know if it's tracking quite the same as Obsession or Backrooms, but what will be? Those movies are absolute like anomalies this year. Don't consider them the way you consider this movie, but I wish for its success. But I also think to me that the statement alone is enough to just say, leave it alone.
I mean, I think the natural answer is sequelize, and I'm fine with that. I think that's really because, like I said, when they jump on that bus, they look out the window, and there's the entity of Ryan, and boom, snap, it's over. I was like, whoa, like I said, I would have gladly taken there 20 minutes of just like what happens next. I was curious, and by the way, like I said, I liked the ending. I liked how it just kind of ended dramatically in that moment. But they are doing a sequel to It Follows. We all know that They Follow is coming out. They're actually just got into production on
This
that
year, right?
recently. Yeah, well, I think it's coming out next year, but they're in production this year.
Okay.
They just started filming it, and I can't remember when we didn't follow. It was like 2017. It's been a decade, I think, somewhere around there. It's been a while, and clearly they had an idea. Was it David Robert Mitchell? I think is his name. Like they
Yes.
had an idea, and then Michael Monroe's coming back, and I'm just curious what it's going to be like. And like I said, I really enjoyed the original. Um, this one is set up for a sequel. Like there was no doubt about it. And once again, I don't need them to solve the problem necessarily. I don't need them to be like, okay, we figured out how to get rid of the entity. More of just like, I want to see what happens next to these two poor kids, especially if like maybe they move to Sydney, they're in Australia, maybe they move to Melbourne, like a more progressive, bigger city. What happens? Because like we said, like even in big cities, evil shit still happens. People are still fucking racist and bigoted and whatever. So I think he's kind of setting it up for that. I don't know if it'll happen, and maybe it takes a few years. Maybe you go 5 years down the road, like now, Name and Ryan are 24, 25 years old, and like, they're still together, whatever. I don't know. So I'm not saying you need to do it like tomorrow, but kind of like would they follow? When they finally came up with a good idea to sequelize that movie, they're doing it. It's a decade later. Will it still work? Will people still care? We'll find out. But I think this movie has such an important message. You could continue to tell that story in the future if you come up with the right idea and you give it enough time. So I don't need you to do like, okay, we're going to jump right back into production tomorrow. Give it a couple of years, maybe 5 years, and then go back into it. So I think it sets itself up for a sequel, and I wouldn't mind to see where this goes next.
I'm definitely going if it's Adrian, executive producing or writing or whatever, or doing it all, directing and all that good stuff, whatever. I really like the way he tells stories. I like the way he executes stories, so I'm in.
Yeah. Next category, Patrick. Can we survive this horror film? This is an interesting question because, as we said, we can't put ourselves in Name and Ryan's shoes necessarily, but we have both grown up around ultra religious people, so I guess we can compare it to that a little bit. So, Patrick, are you making it out of Leviticus alive?
Golly, Damon. I did grow up around very, very religious people who probably would have used tactics like this if they were at their disposal. Unfortunately, that's the kind of that's the kind of thing religion had done to them specifically. And so, I can't put myself in the shoes of a character like Name or a character like Ryan. But if I am in a situation where the person I love the most is turned into an entity that's going to come after me, it's going to be very tough. Now I'm smart enough to go like, that's not you out there. You stay over here. You can text me, but you're not coming to the door. I'm not letting you in. So I think I last a pretty long time. And considering the fact that Name and Ryan were kind of able to outsmart this thing, and by the way, I'm also a very, very social person. So most of the time I'm hanging out somewhere. I'm with people in a lot of situations, so I'm not alone as much as as some other people are. Maybe I do get out of this one alive.
I'm not surviving, but not because the entity comes for me. It's going to be because as soon as I see the conversion therapy bullshit, I'm taking a baseball bat right to the preacher's head, the deliverance healer. Like, I'm going to either be dead because they killed me or I'm going to be in prison. Like, as soon as I see the deliverance healer doing this shit, I'm going to smack that motherfucker up right upside the head. I'm going to tackle him. I'm going to start beating the absolute living shit out of him.
It's funny how 6'3" dudes from Ohio don't this doesn't happen to them as much as it happens to other people.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's not because the entity's coming for me. Yes, that would be an issue. I get it, but like, I'm not even kidding. Like, if I saw that, like, that would just be, it would end either in me in jail or it would end with me dead. Like, someone would just have to kill me to get me. Like, as soon as I see that deliverance healer, I'd just be like, you motherfucker, just pound him into the ground. So yeah, like, I'm not making out because someone's probably gonna grab a shotgun and put it to my head and kill me after I've tackled and just bludgeoned the deliverance healer into a fucking pile of mush.
That's the post credit scene for Leviticus is Damon just busting through the door and ragdolling that fucking preacher until he's fucking mush.
I'll bust through like the Kool-Aid man, be like, oh yeah, and then just come beating the shit out of him. So yeah, that was like I said, watching those scenes like made me like angry. Like I was sitting in the theater,
Yeah.
like just like shaking angry. I just like, but like I said, great movie, but man, it's effective because I was like, fuck all these people, fuck them all.
Yeah, he'd be getting the steering wheel treatment from Obsession. Just slam, slam, slam until he's fucking hamburger meat.
Yeah, I would just 100% just turn him into mush. So yeah, so I don't know how that translates, whether or not I make it out alive or I just end up in prison. But yeah, it ain't gonna end with me free and like hanging out and be like, it's all good, dude. So yeah, none of that. Patrick, last category. I think we pretty much already kind of ruined this one, but let's be honest. Is it scary? So when it comes to Leviticus, is it scary?
It is scary. And mainly because it is dreadful. Now there are legitimate scares in this movie, but it's dreadful. It is just one of those things where you go, "Oh, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to not feel safe. This is what it's like to not trust the person that you're with or the family that you grew up with and love." That's the horror of this movie. And it's so insidious and it so very much gets under your skin to where you're just like, man, that's heavy, that's terrifying, and it's sad because people really go through that.
Here's my probably my biggest compliment for this movie, outside of, like the story and the importance and all that. This is a layered scary movie. And what I mean by that is, you're right. It's dripping with dread, which is your favorite word. I feel like you need to get that word tattooed on you at some point. Dread is
I
like
do.
is absolutely dripping with dread. But then you do get those legitimate, like I said, like the great jump scare, like that. And there's a couple of those in this movie. And then, like I said, that last like 15 minutes of Ryan or of Name running from Ryan and trying to survive. They get into that factory and they're fighting and basically trying to kill each other. It gives you a lot of different kinds of scares. And that final sequence is really the only time you get in that kind of a situation, because the rest of the movie, when you see the entity attacking someone, you're not seeing the entity. You're just seeing this person like being, touched or mauled or bitten or whatever by this
Yeah.
invisible force. It's through Name's point of view we see the Ryan entity. And there's so many layers to this. Like I said, it is dreadful. It is off-putting in that way. There are great jump scares. Then you get that harrowing like final 15 minutes of like a chase, run and chase, cat and mouse, life or death kind of game. So it's a layered scary movie, which I think like kind of appeals to everyone, because some people like are not into traditional jump scares. Some people are not into just like pure dread. They don't really get the appeal of that. This movie has a little bit of everything. It's like a potpourri. You're gonna find something to enjoy about the scares in this movie,
And it doesn't feel messy in that respect. It's got a little bit of everything, but it's all very focused in the right places.
and very lean. Like I said, like this movie's
Hmm.
breezy. Like when it ended today, I was like, "It's over. All right. I
Yeah, I
guess
was like, oh, here I was like, we're getting into that final 15 minutes, and I was like, oh, it's over. Got it. Oh, okay. Like
yeah,
I was out of the theater before 9 o'clock, which is not normal for a 7 o'clock start.
yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay, it's over." And I was waiting. I was like, "Is there more? Come on, like you can show me more. I'm not gonna be mad at that." Like I said, not disappointing. More of just like that to me is the sign of a great movie, where I'm like, "All right, I could have taken more." Where some movies, I'm like, "Can we just get the fuck out of here already?"
What are
I'm
you
looking.
saying, Damon? You didn't like
I,
Backrooms?
I'm looking at you, Disclosure Day and Backrooms, and yeah, couple movies like that. Yeah. So, but that is not Leviticus. Patrick, Leviticus. Clearly, we both love it. I have a hard time believing this is not going to be in my top 10, if not top 5 of the year. I don't want to rank
Me
anything.
too.
We are still
Yeah,
in June. We're literally only halfway through the year right now, so it's hard to say. But this movie's incredible. Go see it. It's worth your time. Highly original. Highly disturbing. Great performances. It's worth your time. Like I said, if you paid your money to see Backrooms and Obsession, you better pay your money to see Leviticus.
absolutely.
With that being said, Patrick, we love everyone that tunes in the show each and every week. We appreciate y'all. Obviously, we mentioned patreon.com/rewind living dead. Go over and support your boys. $5 a month to get all kinds of cool shit, and you get exclusive access to episodes you will not get anywhere else. Plus, we're recording this on Friday. We're going to finish recording. I'm going to edit, and it's going to be up tonight. So you're going to get this days ahead of everybody else on Patreon. But you can also check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, over on rewindofthelivingdead.com, and of course on YouTube as well. Just search Rewind of the Living Dead and you'll find us there. You get questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review, your experience with Leviticus. I always love to hear what other people think of movies we review. I know we get a lot of comments, but we'd love to hear from email. rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That is rot. livingdead@gmail.com. And you can also find us on social media. Once again, send us messages, drop us comments. Once again, just search Rewind of the Living Dead. You'll find us on Instagram, you'll find us on Facebook, and you will find us on Twitter/X. And you can also find us on our own personal social media channels. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And as always, I want to say a big thank you for everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.
Peace.